Hello everyone, my name is Manya and today we have with us Sreenidhi and she has been selected for the job role of AEH at the company Accenture at our on-campus placement process of VIT Vellore. So first of all, she will be explaining her whole on-campus placement process experience with us and then she will be giving us tips as well. Now, hello Sreenidhi, how are you?
Hi, Manya. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm also good. So Sreenidhi, can you introduce yourself first?
Yeah, hi. I'm Sreenidhi. I am from Andhra Pradesh and I'm currently doing my final year BTech in computer science at VIT Vellore and my CGPA is 8.01.
All right, that was great. Now, first of all, I will be telling about the eligibility criteria and then we will move forward with our discussion. So, the first eligibility criteria is of branch and the program. So, all the people who were of BTech and also of integrated program as well were eligible to apply for this company. Now, and then the eligibility criteria was of CGPA. That means all the people who had CGPA above 6.5 were able to apply for this company. Now let's move forward and see the flowchart. So this is the flowchart and every step of the placement is depicted here. So Srinidhi, can you tell us what was the time span between all of these steps?
First, there was a screening test, a basic one, and then you will be shortlisted for a communication assessment, and
Okay.
then around 2 to 3 days after that, we'll be having our one-to-one interview, and like more than a week later, you'll be getting the results. So in total, it's around 2 weeks.
All right, that's amazing. Now let's move forward and see every step of the flowchart in detail. So first step, that was screening test one. So Srinidhi, can you tell us about the screening test one and what was the duration of it and what was your experience with it?
Yes, so screening test one and screening test two will be held on the same day and during the same time. But first, about the screening test one, it's totally an MCQ based round. So it's 90 minutes and 90 questions. So in that, the topics covered will be like quantitative aptitude and then English, your verbal and logical reasoning. Then you will be asked few questions on MS Office as well and then cloud computing, networking, and then there will be given some pseudocode. A lot of questions were based on pseudocode. They'll be giving you a code snippet, and we'll be guessing the output for that. So in this whole round, the most difficult part would be your pseudocode because that particular area you will have to analyze everything. You have to do some paper work as well. You have to write down and you have to calculate a bit. So that will be a little difficult for you. It won't be that pseudo code part won't be that easy. Remaining, you can do it. So nothing to worry. And MS Office again. Not everything about MS Office we're aware about. So it would be nice if you, before going to the test, it would be nice if you check any previous questions as well. So that's about it. But everything is MCQ,
All
and
right,
you
so
can attempt everything.
hmm.
There's no negative marking in that, so you can attend all questions.
Okay, so you also attempted all the questions, is it?
Yes, I attended all the questions. There's no negative marking, so
Yeah, that's great. Now, let's move forward to our second round, that is screening test two. So, Srinidhi, first of all, can you tell us how many people were eliminated after screening test one?
Uh, after screening test one, you can't. We personally don't know how many people got eliminated. Only after both the screening tests, then for the communication round, before the communication round, around 50% people got eliminated. So for the
Okay.
screening test one, no, we don't know the exact number there.
All right. So, about screening test two, can you tell us about that?
Yes, so immediately after your screening test one, you will have to wait in that window. You're not allowed to go out of that window. You have to wait there for around 10 minutes. It's maximum 10 minutes. By maximum 10 minutes, you will get your confirmation whether you're qualified for screening test two or not. So then and there, you will get that one. So immediately after screening test one, after 10 minutes, if you're selected, then you will go to screening test two, which is our pure technical round. It's you'll have to code there. So it's around 45 minutes and you'll be given 2 questions. So once you're done with your first screening, you can go to your second screening there the same day, same time. So those 2 questions for me, the topics that were covered are arrays, strings, and linked list. So the difficulty level would be medium for both the questions, but there might be questions that might take a lot of time. So time is a bit important there because some people might find a few questions easy and some people might find a few questions difficult, but managing the time at the end of the day, that's more important because 45 minutes for if the question difficulty level is more than time won't be that sufficient. So that is something you have to keep in mind. And then for every question, there are actually 2 questions for 45 minutes. So both the questions will have 2 test cases each. So both the test cases must be passed. So
All right, that's great. Now, so after screening test 2, how many people were eliminated and how many were selected to give the next round, that was communication round?
around 50%. Around 50% people got selected into that.
Hmm.
And I think the very next day after giving our cognitive round, so which is this technical plus MCQ round, after the very next day we had our PPT.
Okay.
So that day they mentioned that we'll be getting our communication assessment details. So so they said people who get that communication assessment are considered as qualified. So whoever are qualified, only those people will be given a link for communication assessment.
All right. So can you share your experience with the communication round as well?
So the duration for this communication round is 30 minutes. So you'll have all the topics that I said and everything from the beginning, like your cognitive test or technical or even this communication, everything is AI proctored.
All right.
There won't be any direct proctoring here. And this the communication assessment for listening, there'll be an audio given and you have to listen and answer a question. And for speaking, you'll be given a topic and you have to speak for that. There'll be a timer for 20 seconds or 30 seconds, something like that. And you have to talk about, you have to speak on that topic. And then the story retelling, they'll be telling you a story. You'll have to listen to an audio and then you have to retell that story in your own words. And jumbled sentences is another round where the sentences, the audio it won't be given as a sentence. There will be an audio which will jumble the words and tell. So you have to listen, then you have to keep those words in order, and then you have to say it. So there will be an option called record. There'll be a mic kind of thing. So you have to say it, and everything has a timer. So you have to listen within that time, and you have to say within that time. I think you'll be allowed to hear twice. So this round is something like that, but this is not an elimination round. So people who qualify first cognitive and technical rounds, they will be shortlisted there. There's shortlisting. From there directly, there will be communication round, but this is not an elimination round.
All right, that's great that it wasn't an elimination round. Now let's move forward and see about interview in detail. So there was only one interview and it was technical plus HR. So Srinidhi, can you share that experience with us? What was the duration of it and what were the questions that were asked in it?
Yes, the duration of the interview would totally depend upon the person who's taking your interview. So, but it won't take more than 30 minutes, I guess. 35 maximum, it could be 40. So within that time, the main things that they focus on, especially Accenture, is the projects that you do, the first thing that they see. So the projects that you do should be something that the company would actually like. So if they are interested in that, they ask questions on that. And my interview was like, he just asked me, just explain what you did, what are the projects you did, and all the three that I have kept in my resume, I've explained all those in detail, everything. So they would definitely observe the way you're explaining it. Depending on that, they'll understand how much you know about your
Right.
project.
Right.
So depending on that, they might even ask you some cross questions as well. And sometimes they can ask you a question from any DSA topics. And then they'll ask to whether or not you can apply that concept in your project. So yes or no, we have to give an explanation for that. We have to give a reason and where exactly you can substitute that topic in your project instead of some other
Okay.
things. So
Yeah.
they'll definitely ask that, and they'll ask about all the frameworks that you have used, and they will give you the name of a framework, and they'll ask you, so in your projects, why can't you use this one? Or maybe if there's any framework, then they'll ask you, like, you can apply this to your project. They'll tell you that, but you tell me what will be the changes in the output when you do this.
Okay.
So depending on that, so projects are very important, and you should know 100% about your projects that you did. You should have proper knowledge on that. That is very important. And then everything that you put on your resume, you should actually know that, because they can point out at anything. So resume is very important. Even the projects, you have to know everything in detail about that. And then they asked me about any projects that I did not mention on the resume, any mini projects, something like that we did for our college, simple projects.
Yeah.
And I told about that. And basically, they'll ask you questions around your projects in such a way that they'll get an idea about what you know. So whatever they want to know from you, they'll ask questions depending on that, with the help of the projects that you
Right.
put on your resume.
Hmm.
So this is very important. And this was mostly about, mine was a lot about the frameworks that I didn't know. But because I was for my projects, because I was referring to a lot of research papers, I had idea about something.
Hmm.
So I just told, like, the exact one, I'm not sure, but but from the knowledge I read from so and so research papers, I mentioned the research papers as well, because they shouldn't think like you don't know anything. So
Right.
you have to tell them that whatever you know, you have to tell them. So so and so research papers, I have read this. So maybe the framework that you mentioned might be used in my project in this way. So I mentioned all those, and I felt like at that moment, it's whatever I said. And this was pretty much about the technical stuff. And then coming to the HR, technical and HR were at the same, it was a single interview, technical plus, I mean, my technical interview, and the HR was single interview. So in that HR, but they didn't ask questions like first all the technical questions, or then we'll go to HR. So he was mixing both. He used
Okay.
to ask me about a framework or some project, and then in between he used to ask questions like what were the issues you dealt during this particular project. So HR questions. So so something like that. And basically HR round will be about the way you impress the other person. So you have to, even if you're tensed, you should just
Hmm.
cool down and explain. You just have to say whatever you want to say.
Right.
So there's no preparation for all that, because
Hmm.
HR round, there's no particular template. They can ask you anything. So and they'll definitely ask you about your experiences, like what are the problems you faced during your projects, or maybe about your teamwork, like whatever projects you did. So were it individual, or was it did you do it along with some people?
Yeah.
So depending on
Contributions
that,
to.
they'll
Hmm.
ask questions. Yeah, because and I think team projects is what they expect too. So team projects are important because that is where they'll know our socializing skills. So that
Right.
is a plus point for HR. So definitely do include, even if you did good individual projects, at least include one team project that you did. And and I was also asked like which portion, so the whole project, you have a whole project, which portion was yours and which portion did your teammates do? So depending on so you have to answer in such a way that your work is also an important part in that. So it's
Right.
not like you did just the front end or just the
Hmm.
CSS part, then that won't
Hmm.
give a good impression.
Yeah.
So you should actually do that because they might ask a question on that. So you should actually know that and should have done that already.
Right.
So this is basically about HR, but HR wasn't too HR questions weren't too much for me. It was mostly technical.
Okay. So that was it about interview, right? Yeah. Okay, so now let's move forward and see about another section of our video. That is the most important section, that is tips. So Srinidhi, what tips would you like to give to others who will be appearing for the placement process of Accenture?
Firstly, the thing that I did and everybody who applied for Accenture did was firstly, we will be having a lot of template questions or previous year questions, all those available on a lot of websites. You can go for GFG or you can go for Glassdoor. Glassdoor is actually a very useful site. And but then Glassdoor, I can say Interview Bit. So these people have all questions like technical questions, coding questions, or HR questions. You'll not get the exact question for sure, but you'll get an idea and you can really become more confident after reading all those. So
Yeah.
I spent like almost before every interview and especially before Accenture, I went through all those questions for almost an hour so that I'll get an idea on how they're going to ask and what they expect from us. And the Glassdoor is where people won't be giving you the exact question, but they'll give their interview experience so that you'll know what the interviewer might be expecting. So GFG, Glassdoor, and Interview Bit are, I think those will be pretty much enough for you, but these three are definitely important for you to go through
Okay.
before interview. And another tip would be like your resume, not just this company, any company, they will point out at any random thing on your resume and they'll ask you a question about that. So it's very important to know each and every word you write on your resume.
Right.
And because I am telling this because even I wrote about the languages I speak, and I wrote 4 to 5 languages,
Hmm.
and he actually asked me about that. I
Okay.
thankfully I do know those languages, so that was fine. But
Hmm.
what if I didn't? So
Yeah.
that would be a problem. And he did also, I mentioned about the clubs I was in, and he was asking questions of that about that as well. So it's very important to know everything that's on your resume. And I think Accenture, after I completed giving my interview, and also the friends who got selected in the same company,
Hmm.
it's basically about the way you're explaining things. About you need to know whatever you're speaking, just know that if you don't know anything, you can
Right.
directly tell them that I'm not much aware of that or something like
Hmm.
that, but
Hmm.
do not just over explain something that you don't know.
Hmm. Right.
That's important.
Okay. So that's it for the tips, right?
Yeah, that's
All right, thank you very much. So, with this, we come to the end of our session today, and thank you very much, Srinidhi, for joining today and sharing your insightful experience with us.
Thank you.